A cheating husband and the house help. A modern African folk tale of desire, deceit, and consequences. The House of Golden Silence. The mansion stood like a quiet king at the edge of the city, tall, confident, and untouchable. From the outside, it glowed softly under the evening sky, its cream-colored walls kissed by golden lights that shimmered like calm fireflies. Inside, warmth lived everywhere, not the warmth of laughter, but the warmth of luxury carefully arranged. The living room breathed elegance. Soft amber lighting flowed from modern lamps perched beside framed wall art abstract paintings, inspired by African royalty and ancient symbols of power. Long curtains of deep brown velvet draped from ceiling to floor, catching the glow and holding it like a secret. A glass side table stood near the leather sofa, a half-filled wine glass resting quietly on it, the red liquid reflecting the room like a silent witness. This was the home of Mr. Damilola Adebayo. Damilola was a man admired from afar and envied up close. In his early 40s, he carried himself with the confidence of someone who had conquered life early. His skin was smooth and well cared for, his beard neatly shaped, his presence commanding without effort. He wore wealth the way some men wore confidence naturally, almost carelessly. He was successful, respected, and powerful. And yet, beneath the polished surface, something rotten waited to be exposed. That evening, Damilola sat alone on the sofa. One leg crossed over the other, his phone glowing softly in his hand. The shallow depth of the room made the background blur into soft bokeh lights, melting into one another, shadows dancing gently across the walls. His face was calm, but his eyes betrayed restlessness. The wineglass remained untouched. The house was quiet, too quiet for a married man. His wife, Mrs. Morenike Adebayo, was away. Morenike was grace wrapped in dignity, a woman raised with values older than the city itself. She believed in marriage, the way elders believed in ancestral land sacred and protected. She had traveled to her hometown for a family ceremony, trusting her home, her marriage, and her husband. Trust like fine glass is beautiful until it breaks. A soft sound echoed from the hallway. Footsteps. Damilola did not look up immediately. He already knew who it was. Zainab, the house help. She moved carefully, almost silently, dressed in a simple fitted gown that contrasted sharply with the luxury around her. Her youth was obvious, early 20s, smooth dark skin glowing under the warm lights, eyes always lowered in respect. She had been in the house for just 6 months, brought in after Morenike insisted they needed help managing such a large home. Zainab paused near the entrance of the living room. "Sir," she said softly, her voice respectful, almost timid. "Dinner is ready." Damilola finally looked up. For a brief moment, the room felt heavier. His gaze lingered, not the casual glance of an employer, but something slower, something curious. The dramatic lighting sculpted his face, highlighting the sharp lines of his cheekbones and the dangerous calm in his eyes. "Leave it," he said. "I'll eat later." "Yes, sir." She turned to go. "Zainab," he added. She stopped. "Yes, sir?" "Come closer." She hesitated, then obeyed. As she stepped forward, the soft glow of the lamps wrapped around her, revealing her youthful innocence and innocence that had no idea it was standing at the edge of temptation. The air between them changed, thick with unspoken thoughts. Damilola leaned back slightly, studying her as though she were one of the framed artworks on his wall. "How are you settling in?" he asked casually. "I'm fine, sir. Thank you." "Do you like working here?" "Yes, sir. Madam is very kind." At the mention of his wife, a shadow crossed his face, brief but telling. "That's good," he said. "You work hard." She nodded, unsure of what to say. Silence stretched. The house, once filled with golden calm, now carried something darker, something dangerous, like a drumbeat before a storm. "You can go," he finally said. Zainab bowed her head and turned away, her heart pounding for reasons she did not understand. As her footsteps faded down the hallway, Damilola picked up his wineglass and took a slow sip. Outside, the night deepened. Inside the house, a seed had been planted. The absent wife and the watching eyes. Morning crept into the mansion like a careful visitor, its golden fingers slipping through the heavy curtains and resting softly on polished floors. The house woke slowly, as though it too understood the weight of silence that had settled within its walls. Zainab rose before sunrise, as she always did. She moved through the corridors with practiced ease, her bare feet quiet against the marble tiles. The mansion was beautiful. In the early hours, warm ambient, lighting still glowing faintly, from wall lamps, framed art staring down like ancient judges, and the air carrying a mixture of expensive perfume and polished wood. Yet to Zainab, beauty had begun to feel heavy. She had noticed it the night before, the way her employer had looked at her. It was not the first time a man had looked, but it was different. This was a married man, a man whose wife treated her like family, a man whose house she lived in. As she wiped the dining table, her reflection stared back at her in the glass surface. She frowned slightly, uncomfortable. I must not imagine things, she told herself. In African wisdom, elders often say, when a goat begins to hear drums where there are none, it should check its ears. But the drums were real. From the top of the staircase, Damilola descended. He was dressed casually, simple trousers, a fitted shirt, but everything about him still spoke of wealth. The morning light caught his skin, giving him a soft glow that made him appear calm and harmless. "Good morning, sir," Zainab greeted quickly, bowing her head. "Good morning," he replied, his voice relaxed. "You're up early." "Yes, sir. I wanted to finish cleaning before breakfast." He walked into the dining area, the camera of life following him at eye level, the background fading softly as he took center focus. He pulled out a chair but did not sit. "My wife used to wake up this early," he said suddenly. Zainab paused. "Yes, sir. Madam is very disciplined." "She is," he agreed. "Sometimes too disciplined." There was a strange tone to his voice, one Zainab did not know how to interpret. She returned to her cleaning, focusing on her task, but she could feel his eyes following her movements. "How long will Madam be away?" he asked. 2 weeks, sir," Zainab answered. "She said the family ceremony is important." Damilola nodded slowly. 2 weeks is a long time," he said, more to himself than to her. The words hung in the air like smoke. He finally sat down and poured himself coffee. The soft clink of the cup echoed in the quiet room. "Zainab," he said again. "Yes, sir? You're from the north, right?" "Yes, sir." "From Zaria. That explains your calm nature," he said with a faint smile. "You people are raised with respect." "Thank you, sir." Respect. The word tasted bitter in her mouth. As he sipped his coffee, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it briefly, then placed it face down on the table. Zainab caught a glimpse of the message preview before it disappeared. A woman's name, not Morenicki's. Her heart skipped. She quickly looked away, ashamed of herself for noticing. Damilola stood. "I'll be working from home today," he announced. "If I need anything, I'll call you." "Yes, sir." He walked past her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, expensive, warm, lingering. Her body stiffened instinctively. When he disappeared into his home office, Zainab released a breath she did not know she was holding. Later that afternoon, the mansion buzzed softly with quiet activity. The sun was higher now, pouring rich golden light through the windows. Zainab was in the living room, adjusting the curtains. When she felt it again, that sensation of being watched, she turned. Damilola stood at the far end of the room, leaning casually against the wall, arms folded. "You work very neatly," he said. "Thank you, sir. My wife is lucky to have you." At the mention of Morenicki, guilt flickered in Zainab's chest for reasons she could not explain. "She trained me well," Zainab said quickly. Damilola smiled, but there was something behind it, something calculating. "She trusts people easily," he said. "That's one of her strengths. And her weaknesses." Zainab froze. "Sir?" she asked softly. He waved it off lightly. "Nothing. Just thinking aloud." Silence returned, thicker than before. From that moment on, Zainab began to notice small things. How Damilola called her more often. How his compliments lingered longer. How his eyes followed her when he thought she was not looking. And how the house once only luxurious had become a stage. In African folktales, elders warn, when the owner of the house begins to watch the cooking pot too closely, hunger is no longer the problem. Far away, Morenicki prepared for her family ceremony, unaware that her absence had opened a door. And some doors, once opened, refused to close quietly, shadows in silence. The Adeyemi house did not sleep easily that night. Even after the lights were turned off and the last footsteps faded into distant rooms, The air remained restless, heavy with thoughts unspoken. The soft hum of the air conditioner blended with the distant sound of traffic outside the estate, but inside, 3 hearts beat with uneasy rhythm. Morenike lay awake beside her husband, her back turned toward him. She could feel Damola's presence close yet impossibly far. His breathing was steady, too steady, the kind that came from a man pretending to sleep. Morenike knew that rhythm well. She had learned, over years of marriage, when her husband was truly at rest and when his mind wandered into places he would never name. Her eyes burned, but no tears fell. "What has changed you?" she whispered silently. Damola stared at the ceiling, his thoughts tangled like vines. He told himself he was tired. He told himself work stress had made him distant. He told himself many things, anything except the truth. Each lie felt small on its own, yet together they formed a wall he could no longer see through. Down the corridor, in a modest room far removed from luxury, Zainab sat upright on her narrow bed. She had not even changed out of her uniform. Her mind replayed the earlier moment again and again. Damola's voice calling her name. The way it sounded softer than before, almost familiar. She remembered the brief touch of their hands. The way her heart jumped as though it had been waiting for something it did not understand. "This house is not my home," she murmured to herself. "I must know my place." Yet knowing one's place and keeping to it were two very different things. Morning arrived dressed in routine. Golden sunlight filtered through sheer curtains, casting warm patterns on polished floors. The house returned to its usual order, maids moving quietly. The smell of fresh coffee, the distant clink of cutlery. Morenike descended the stairs with her usual elegance, dressed in a soft cream gown that spoke of wealth without shouting. Her face was calm, but her eyes searched without intention. Zainab greeted her with a respectful bow. "Good morning, Ma." "Good morning, Zainab," Morenike replied warmly. "Did you sleep well?" "Yes, Ma," Zainab answered quickly, lowering her eyes. Morenike paused not long enough to raise suspicion, but long enough to notice. Something about the girl's voice felt strained, like a string pulled too tight. Morenike said nothing, yet her instincts stirred. At the dining table, Damola joined them moments later. Freshly dressed, confidence carefully restored. "Morenike," he said with a smile that almost convinced even him. "You're up." "Early today. I couldn't sleep," she replied simply, watching his face. Damola chuckled lightly. "Too much thinking. You worry too much." Morenike smiled back, but her eyes did not smile with him. As Zainab served breakfast, Damola's gaze followed her movements without permission. He told himself he was distracted, but distraction did not explain the tightening in his chest or the sudden dryness in his throat when she stood close. Zainab felt it too. She sensed his eyes on her back, heavy like hands. Her shoulders stiffened, and she worked faster than usual, eager to disappear into the kitchen. Yet when she turned to leave, Damola spoke again. "Zainab." She stopped instantly. "Yes, sir?" "After breakfast, help me arrange the study. Some files are out of place." Morenike looked up sharply. "The study?" "Yes," Damola said casually. "I need some documents urgently." Morenike nodded slowly. "All right." But her heart tightened. The study was a private space, a room. Damola rarely allowed anyone to enter unless necessary. And Zainab knew it too. She hesitated for just a second before nodding. "Yes, sir." Later that morning, the house fell unusually quiet. Morenike had gone upstairs to prepare for an outing, her footsteps fading along the corridor. The study door stood slightly ajar, sunlight spilling across dark wood shelves lined with books and awards. Zainab entered carefully, dust cloth in hand. Damola stood by the window, arms folded behind his back. When he turned, the room felt smaller. "You work hard," he said suddenly. "Thank you, sir," Zainab replied, keeping her distance. "You remind me of someone I used to know," he continued. "Someone simple, honest." Zainab swallowed. "Sir, I just want to do my job." Damola stepped closer, not touching, but close enough for her to feel his presence. "That's what you think," he said quietly. "But life is rarely that simple." The silence that followed was dangerous. Zainab's heart pounded. Every instinct told her to leave, yet her feet felt rooted to the floor. She thought of Morenike's kindness, her gentle voice, her trust. "This is wrong," she whispered, barely audible. Damola heard her. He straightened suddenly, as if waking from a dream. "Yes," he said, clearing his throat. "You're right. You can go." Zainab did not wait for permission twice. As she rushed out, she nearly collided with Moreniki standing just outside the door. Their eyes met. For a brief, terrifying moment, the world seemed to pause. Moreniki studied Zainab's flushed face, her hurried breathing, the fear she tried to hide. Slowly, Moreniki turned her gaze toward the study door and then back again. "Are you all right?" Moreniki asked softly. "Yes, Ma," Zainab replied, her voice trembling. I was just cleaning." Moreniki nodded, stepping aside to let her pass. But as Zainab walked away, Moreniki's calm expression faded. Her heart whispered a truth she was not yet ready to accept. Somewhere within her home, trust was cracking. She stood up, her presence commanding, her voice firm. "You broke trust. You abused your position. You brought shame into your own home." Damola tried to speak, but she raised her hand. "I am not here to beg, and I am not here to fight," she said. "I am here to choose myself." That night, Zainab packed her belongings quietly. Moreniki gave her money, more than enough to start again. "Go and build a better life," she told her. "Learn from this. Never let anyone reduce your worth again." Zainab wept as she knelt one last time. "You are a good woman, Ma." Moreniki watched her leave without bitterness. As for Damola, the house that once echoed with admiration now echoed with regret. The luxury remained, but peace had gone with Moreniki when she chose to walk away from a marriage built on broken vows. In the end, the lesson was clear. A cheating husband may hide behind power and comfort. A househelp may be caught between need and temptation. But truth always finds its voice, and dignity always finds its way back home.